let's face it, the Dakotas haven't gotten much exposure in the sports world, but it's time for that to change. There's no debates that the North Dakota State Bison are the kingpins of the FCS football world. Think about this stat. They have won 10 of the past 15 FCS national championships. I will repeat that. 10 of the last 15 FCS national championships. That is dominance. That is an astronomical statistic. Listen to this. They are 51-5 all time in the FCS playoffs. They have only lost 5 games in the FCS playoffs all time. Again, dominance. Mind-blowing. They also have 38 conference titles all time to just further fortify North Dakota State's dominance in the FCS. Unbelievable. There's no question that this program has made its mark in the FCS. They've established their position as the dominant force in the FCS. They are leaps and bounds above every other program in the FCS. And yes, there's been teams along the way, like your South Dakota States, your Montanas, your Montana States, that have challenged North Dakota State. But at the end of the day, these are those guys. And North Dakota State shows year in and year out that they are the superior program in the FCS. They are essentially a big fish in a small pond right now. The dominance has gotten to a point to where it's almost exhausting in the FCS because you just expect North Dakota State to win that thing every year, to win that natty. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's time for North Dakota State to make the leap of faith from the FCS to the FBS to become a small fish in a bigger pond. But because of the prowess of this program and what this North Dakota State football program is made of, I have no doubt that they will make their mark in whatever conference they're in the FBS as well. But now is the time. I mean, you look at some of these other teams that have made the jump or are preparing to make the jump. Most notably, James Madison. And they've had a successful transition into the FBS so far. North Dakota State has beaten James Madison multiple times in the FCS playoffs. But yet, James Madison is in the FBS and North Dakota State isn't. Delaware is preparing to make the transition. Sacramento State is preparing to make the transition. Appalachian State has made the transition and has made it very successfully. You know, they broke onto the scene when they went into the Big House and beat Michigan back in 2007. And they continued to challenge prominent FBS brands in head-to-head games. And it turned heads, and it got to the point where they were ready to make the leap from the FCS to the FBS. And yes, it's all about timing, but I don't think that the timing could be more right than it is for North Dakota State right now. I think that they've done all that they can do in the FCS. They've proven everything that they need to. And now it's time for them to make the leap. And a big question mark always when you're about to make a move like this is how they translate, how they fare going from one league to another that's far more competitive. You've got, you know, you're playing Titans in the FBS. Well, first and foremost, they'd start in the G5. You're not just gonna jump to the Big 12 or anything. Like you got to get your feet wet. You got to go from one stage to the next. But you look at some of these conferences in the G5, your MACs, your Sun Belts, your Conference USAs. I think if you line North Dakota State up with a lot of these teams in the G5, North Dakota State is the better team, and Vegas would favor them to win the game. I mean, think about North Dakota State playing Ball State, or North Dakota State playing Charlotte. Like, come on. They're going to win that thing. They are better than those teams. They have superior talent to those teams. And this is a team that has consistently produced NFL talent over the past several years as well. And so, It's year in, year out that they churn this talent. And they've been a factory for really talented players. And you can see it by how they compete with these other teams in the FCS. Here's something else to highlight. North Dakota State has won 6 straight games against FBS teams. They have gone head-to-head with and have beaten some pretty recognizable brands. They beat Iowa head-to-head several years ago. Iowa, under the guidance of Kirk Ferentz, has been a pretty reputable program. Have they fallen off over the past several years? You can argue that, but consistently, it's been a pretty winning program under Kirk Ferentz. They've beaten Iowa State head-to-head. They've beaten Kansas State head-to-head. Everybody knows who those teams are. North Dakota State beat them, and I think they're capable of beating many others as well. It's time. Look at how they played Colorado last year. They almost beat Colorado in Boulder. And, people can't stop talking about Colorado every week. North Dakota State almost beat this team. This is a very good football team. And them guys are big. They got some big boys on that team. They're all corn-fed, Dakotas. You know how it is. And just the way they play. They're tough. They're gritty. They will fare well in the FBS. And I think at the conference that's the best fit for them, geographically, would be the Mountain West. Of course, because you'll be playing teams from Colorado, from Utah, from Nevada. It just makes sense for them to be in that conference. California, they're kind of in the middle of the country, the heartlands, but North Dakota's kind of leaning towards the western side of the country, so it would not be as far of a trip as it would be in other conferences consistently to play your road games if you're North Dakota State in the Mountain West. Geographically, the Mountain West makes sense. Level of competition makes sense. And given the current circumstance of the Mountain West, there's alignment there as well. Because Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Utah State are preparing to make the move to the new Pac-12, the new reimagined Pac-12 in 2026. So they will fit into that conference like a glove. So that makes sense for both North Dakota State and the Mountain West. And the other question is, naturally, these are all fun and games. This is a pipe dream. But can North Dakota State actually, legally, make this jump? Yes, they can. I dove in here, I did the research, and I found out that North Dakota State meets the FBS requirements for average home attendance, which is 15,000 fans per game. The Fargo Dome holds 19,000 people. And trust me, they fill that bitch up every game. The Fargo Dome, week in, week out, is a sellout because North Dakota State has a fantastic fan base, very connected to their team. Of course, winning helps with that, but people in North Dakota, they love their Bison, and it's a huge brand. That's why I want to see them get exposed more. And they also meet the minimum amount of varsity sports offered to be an FBS team. So, yes, they check the boxes. They can make the jump. This is what I like to call the American dream of college football. Jumping from one level to the next. Whether it's FCS to FBS or G5 to Power 4. Just your growth as a program over the years. That is the American dream of college football. Look at some of the teams who have done it in past years. Appalachian State. They came on the scene when they beat Michigan head-to-head in 07. And then they went from the FCS to the FBS. They have lived the American dream of college football. Right here in Fort Worth, Texas. The TCU Horned Frogs. They were a Mountain West team. And in the 2000s, they solidified themselves as a force year in and year out. Andy Dalton, LaDainian Tomlinson. People got to know their names. People knew who the Horned Frogs were. This was a force. They eventually got elevated from the Mountain West to the Big 12 where they are now. And most notably, as pictured behind me, those Boise State Broncos. The Statue of Liberty. They beat Oklahoma head-to-head in the Fiesta Bowl. This was an FCS team. And they got elevated to the Mountain West. And they made their mark pretty quickly, beating Oklahoma head-to-head. And they just continued to beat big brand after big brand after big brand. Those Kellen Moore days were electric. They were one of the best teams in the country. I mean, they're week in, week out a top 5 team in the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were, rankings-wise, they were up there with your Alabamas and your Floridas and your LSUs and your Ohio States. Them guys were like that. Again, the American dream of college football. And they, at some point, I expect to make the jump to the Power 4. Well, now is the time for North Dakota State to live out the American dream of college football by making the leap from the FCS to the FBS. It is time to put the Dakotas on the map. They've been slept on for too long because North Dakota State's been the FCS. Yes, the FCS playoffs are carried on ESPN networks, of course. I'm a nerd, so I watch those games. But they don't get as much exposure as they would on a Saturday afternoon window on ESPN or on CBS. Well, now is the time for that brand of North Dakota State and for the Dakotas overall to get more exposure in the world of sports, in the world of college football. This will bolster revenue for the North Dakota State athletic department overall. Merchandise sales will skyrocket because people will see what North Dakota State is made of, and they'll become fans. They'll get those bandwagon fans. But most importantly, this move is huge for those fans of North Dakota State that have been loyal fans for years. It's time for your school to get put on the map. It's time for people to know y'all's name. Because North Dakota State has made their mark in the FCS. They've done all they need to do at that level. 10 of the last 15 natties. Well, it's time to jump to the FBS and do the damn thing, Bison. Let me know what y'all think about this take in the comment section below. Have a great day.